Welcome back to a small sanctuary and diving right in for Vegan Shabbat, the Jewish Veganuary challenge that I'm doing. Preparation is key. I gathered all of my books. I bought a new one in addition to the ones I already had, and I started scripting out all of the recipes that I like that you can see right here. I also made sure to read some of the health implications from switching from a mainly lacto-ovo vegetarian / flexitarian kosher diet to a vegan diet for the month. And protein and vitamin B12 is of course key. Please follow up with your own doctor and nutritionist for the best medical advice. I am not qualified to give it. Based on the reading that I did from my books, I realized that my diet would be very grain and legume heavy over the next month. So this is my meal planner. I've used it in the past. Some things have already been filled up. What I like about this meal planner is that it doesn't give you dates, so you can just turn to a new page, irrespective of what you did before, and continue on the way. I'm going to start meal planning. This page wants to tell me that I've had a salad niçoise and I've had salmon and pastry dough. Yum, looks good reading back on it. But I will start here and I will start meal planning for the month. I think I really need to do that because otherwise it's going to get subsumed in the chaos of a life as a full-time working mom with 3 kids and being a congregational rabbi. So that is what I'm going to do, and I look forward to filling up some of these pages. It allows you to fill in breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I actually suspect that I will struggle most with breakfast because I really like my cheese. You know, where I'm from, we eat a lot of cheese. And cheese is important to me. I think giving up dairy will be the biggest challenge, not giving up meat, actually. So I look forward to experimenting with like dairy replacements. Vegan cheese, vegan cream cheese, vegan sour cream, etc. Here is my other book. I'm actually excited to use this one. I know there's a ton of resources on the internet, but I just like having a physical book. Smoky colored greens. How American. There are some delicious desserts like this berry peach cobbler, and look at that, chocolate pots de creme. Yeah, I'm really curious how we're going to get that yummy creaminess without dairy. Creamy quinoa artichoke casserole. Ooh, I could get into that. I like quinoa. That would also make a great Pesach recipe. Let's see. Does it make a great Pesach recipe, or is there anything in there that would be not suitable? Well, that's worth examining. And loads of other beautiful recipes. And then there is this book. I know this book can be a little bit controversial, so I really want to say that with the caveat. I am not ascribing any normativity to this book. It's very strict because it's not just a vegan guide, it's also a health guide. And I do not feel qualified making an assessment on how accurate or workable or responsible it is as a health guide. I did not buy it as a health guide. I mean, the information is interesting, but I'm in a good place with my physical health and my self-image in that regard. And I think that's also really important to say because usually we hear the opposite. But I'm doing great, you know? And we women need to say that sometimes. I'm accepting that I'm a middle-aged woman who's had 3 children and who is healthy and doing good. And that is worth being grateful for, and that is enough. But I do not feel qualified to talk about the suitability of this book. It was recommended to me. It's an easy to navigate guide, and it was also quite affordable. So I'm going to enjoy trying some of these, as well as the more in-depth knowledge. If I draw on other resources during this blogging journey, I will definitely let you know, but I'm going to start with these and then see how it goes. Now to the actual recipes themselves. Now keep in mind that while I had done all of that prep, I hadn't actually managed to meal plan and I hadn't actually been able to do a designated shop. So I was cooking from the supplies that I had unprepared with my own concocted and invented recipes. I definitely will be going into week 2 much more prepared. Here we go. I kicked off vegan Shabbat by making Beyond Burgers on a homemade za'atar maple syrup bun. I made the dough like any other vegan dough. I just made sure to include more wet ingredients to make it a little softer. I didn't have a plant-based milk, which I would have added otherwise, but it still came out pretty soft and fluffy, and I was happy with it. I basted it with maple syrup and then sprinkled the za'atar on top for a little bit of that crunch and that sweet savory combination. The buns came out great and everybody loved them. For the rest, I fried up my patties from the freezer. I always have some Costco's Beyond Burgers on supply, and I made some pickled vegetables from one of my books. Now these pickled vegetables were great because I ended up using them all week and just topping them up as I went along, and they were very versatile. I ended up putting them in salads as toppings and for all kinds of uses. The colors are really happy and bright. It was easy to put together and delicious all week long. Here you can see me enjoying everything put together, some French fries, some applesauce, the burger, the bun, a childhood classic. My kids were really big fans. I love Beyond Burgers because for a lacto-ovo vegetarian, you can also pair them with cheese and it makes a kosher cheeseburger. What's not to love? The next day, I ended up using the buns for my lunch, and I just put on peanut butter and some chili sauce, cut up some fruit, put my pickles on top, and that was a very respectable lunch. The next day I decided to treat ourselves to some homemade vegan cinnamon rolls. I made them like any other cinnamon rolls, but kept the dough vegan obviously. Again, I didn't have any plant-based milk on hand, which would have made them softer and fluffier, but we ended up eating the batch right out of the oven anyway, so they were super soft and it wasn't an issue. I was missing some brown sugar, so what I did instead was combine white sugar with molasses, and that is a nice little hack which worked out great. I put icing sugar on top, and with a cup of tea, these were a great treat, and I could hardly tell that they were vegan actually. They were just delicious and flavorful. Everybody happy. Next meal was a takeout from Panera. Did the job just fine. It was a Mediterranean bowl. The next meal was a little more ambitious. I had some leftover chorizo, tomato, pasta sauce. It was quite thick, so all I did was wrap it in pastry dough with loads of basil and herbs, served it with a salad and greens and my pickles, and it was a full and quite luxurious meal. The pickles provided that crunch and that sour tangy flavor to offset an otherwise quite heavy meal, and it was a great combination. I really like this, and this would also work for a dinner party. You can definitely spruce this one up. For Shabbat, I made lemon and herbed tofu, basically based on the marinade my husband always makes for our chicken. I just marinated the tofu in it, crisped it up with corn flour, and fried it in oil in a pan. The rest of the accoutrements were just our normal Shabbat fare, and I made a little sauce of the leftover marinade with some corn flour as well. To be honest, it was disappointing, ain't going to lie. Lunch, however, was better. This was a meze with Mediterranean items, hummus and other nice sauces, pickles, olives, and some grape leaves stuffed with rice, which I still had on hand. A very respectable lunch. Mediterranean and Middle Eastern foods would be a recurring theme during my week. And I noticed those are foods we tend to eat a fair bit of because they are closely tied to Jewish culture, and I love them. But relying on them as a vegan was a little much, and for the next couple of weeks, I would like to broaden my palate a little bit because I'm keep on eating very similar flavors, and that's definitely something to bust out of a little bit more. The chimichurri sauce pairs really nicely with hummus. It adds a little freshness, sweetness, and tanginess. For a sweet treat, a friend of mine made homemade chocolate fudge with condensed vegan coconut milk, and it was perfect since my own baking projects had failed. So here I am enjoying that for tea time. This Indonesian meal was one of the best meals. I decided to repurpose the mediocre tofu that I'd made for Shabbat and make a gado-gado, which is basically an Indonesian peanut sauce served with rice and all kinds of vegetables and greens. It was simple but delicious and very varied and nutritious. This I would definitely do again. A classic lentil soup made by my husband, and some takeout falafel. In conclusion, prep is everything. My week got away from me because of unforeseen circumstances, and I made a rod for my own back that way. Still, my meals were good. They were healthy, nutritious, and very varied, but they were not as exciting as I had hoped they would be because I kept on cycling through what I already knew, what I was used to making in my life, but with all of the lacto-ovo items cut out. So I have to go back to the drawing board and really dig into those recipes, get the plant-based milk and dairy replacements, and relaunch for week 2. Still, it was a good experience. Was I entirely consistent? No, I wasn't. I went to a friend's house. She had made homemade chocolate cake. I did not refuse that. I thought that would be rude. I also ended up eating egg-based challah for Shabbat because that is what we had on hand and that was what was served in the synagogue. I ran out of time to make vegan challah. So that is a project for week 2 as well. Have I enjoyed this challenge so far? No, I haven't. My kids kept on asking me why I keep on doing it when I would complain about missing certain food items. And I said to them, that's kind of the point. This is only a month and it is a time for spiritual and moral growth on my part. I haven't hated it either. It's just been different and a little harder, but there's definitely room for thoughtfulness and improvement. I've not been hungry and I've not missed meat. I have felt well nourished and well fed by the items that I made. I just would like more variety and I would like to learn how to bake vegan. Here comes week 2. I'm excited for that. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you like this kind of content and you like what I'm doing with home-centered Judaism at a small sanctuary, please like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share this video with your friends. I will see you real soon for the next one. Shalom uvracha, with peace and blessings.